Welcome to Glib Shark, the podcasting madness of three people and the shark of their dreams. Our hosts include Jack Jenga Ship Edithel, Lauren Oboe Crazy Urban, and Jonathan Roadblock Cerna. Dive in as they chat with interesting people across the internet and generally talk about really geeky things. Be a chum and join us, won't you? It's time for Glib Shark.
Thanks for introducing us, Bob. We are Glib Shark. Hi, I'm Jack.
I'm Lauren.
No, you're not. You're Jonathan.
I'm Roadblock.
Insubordination on all fronts. We're on the air with Michael Burnie Burns, heading up a promising young company called Rooster Teeth Productions. We'll talk to him in just a. They've been around a couple of seconds, but we'll talk to him in just a bit. But first, as always, we have the lovely, the talented, the amazing Oboe Crazy here to do a little something that we call This Week in Geek. How are you, Oboe?
I'm doing good. And in honor of having one of the godfathers of the Rooster Teeth community here on the show, I'm going to do a nice, short, sweet This Week in Geek dedicated to stuff going on in the Rooster Teeth community. First off, are you in Ireland? Do you like Rooster Teeth? Go to RT Ireland. And that's going to happen March 15th, which is also probably going to be the community day. So wear all of your Rooster Teeth stuff and go to Ireland and drink with Rooster Teeth fans, because that sounds like the best thing ever, doesn't it? Dublin and Rooster Teeth. If you can't go to Ireland, but you still want to help out some people, go check out Buy Pagan. She's got a fundraiser charity event that's going to be a big gaming event to help her mom with expenses with her house. If you check out Buy_Pagan on the Rooster Teeth site, she's got all kinds of information. They're going to be raffling off all kinds of great prizes, including some Rooster Teeth stuff. There's a big 48-hour gaming event. There's videos. There's an Indiegogo. And if you don't know what that is, it's like Kickstarter for people who are not American. It's pretty awesome. Go check that out. Finally, Luke McKay has opened up his commissions again. Yay! Go to LukeMcKay.com and check out his commissions page and go get yourself Luke McKay, because, hey, that's what all the cool kids are doing. That's all for This Week in Geek, and I'm Oboe Crazy. And, hey, Burnie, it's kind of been a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a little while. It's been a crazy couple of years. So it's I think the last time I was on, that you guys were late night Jenga Jam.
Yeah, whole different name. And I'm pretty sure the last time you were on, we had 2 hours of people yelling at you about why the website didn't work.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember in particular. It's really funny. It's like, we were just talking about the podcast the other day, the interaction with the community and interaction with the audience, and how I think we do it a little bit differently. And I remember there was like the Dead Parrot was on. He was the number one. Was it most watched or number one online time? He was like one of the top users on RT at the very top, and he was like, he was coming after me. And I was hitting him back with some stuff too, and it's like I think he got really upset by it. I don't think I saw the guy after that. So
he's
let's not do that again tonight.
And also, he's going to be mad that you brought that up after what, like 4 years? It's like because I was actually thinking about that when you were on, and I'm like, oh damn, that was when like Lane got owned by Burnie. And I remember after it in the chat, he's like, oh guys, I don't think I helped at all. And he's come back. He's been around. He was actually at I want to say PAX East in 2012.
Yeah, PAX East.
But he's been around. I think he's over it. He has more stuff to worry about. He actually had a kid a couple months ago.
Oh, that's amazing. It's just like it's going to be 10 years that the social media site, the one we have today, and the one we know and love today, has been up, and it's crazy just everything that's happened, like couples, kids, everything like that, marriages. It's just nuts.
And in the face of something that that kind of profound, we've been taking questions on our Twitter. And some of them have been pretty unique and different questions. Some of them you've answered before. We won't get to those. But there's one question that's been repeated, and it's apparently on the fans' mind. When the fuck are we getting the Strangerhood Season 2?
Oh, my God. That's a joke that Ray put out there. And, it's, a lot of the content these days is, catchphrases are very big in the content now. It's or in the audience. It's like this the catchphrase stuff is huge, and it's like I guess they never identified what we did before as being catchphrases because it was like fictional lines and narrative being written. So like we always had quote shirts, but now the quotes are attributed to actual people. So it's like it's really interesting. Like that one's one I hung a Strangerhood DVD, a framed DVD over Ray's station just the other day.
Nice.
Yeah, because it's just like one of those things that like comes up, and it's like we're very conscious of that now. I think at the company where it's like if something is like getting taking off, it's like, all right, this is just gonna be part of the culture from now on. This is part of our life, you know. And
I know when
try to be careful about it, but sometimes you just can't control that stuff.
Yeah, like I'm on the TeamSpeak server, the Rooster Speak guys, and I remember they kind of opened up to a lot of the latecomers, a lot of the new fans. They were like, "Hey, you guys have been asking about a TeamSpeak server. We already have one. Come and hang out." And I think in like the first couple of days, normally I'm on there when I'm playing League of Legends to talk to some of those guys while we're playing, and I wandered down to like the latecomer channel, and it was packed, like a couple of dozen people in there, and they were all yelling, "No way in, no way out, no way!" Like for almost an hour. It was just catchphrases that were being yelled at constantly, and I'm just like, wow, okay, I'm gonna wander up where people are saying now. So I'll see you guys. I'll be back later, maybe.
Yeah, and it's like, but it's like if we look at it, what is the difference between that and like, you know, if you look back like 4 or 5 years ago, it's like, you know, like people like I Like Me, zombie plans, you know, all that stuff. You know, I mean, we always had that stuff. It just was, I guess it was a little different because it seemed a little different because it was, like I said, scripted stuff. You know, it was like quotes and not catchphrases.
Well, every now and again, you got something come out of the community like no random friend requests. My sister still has that shirt.
That's true. That's true. And get pumped. You know, that was
the Governor.
The Governor, yeah, and stuff like that. I mean, there was definitely always stuff like that. You know, and I mean, it's just like that's the internet has always loved that stuff. They take something and they run with it. I mean, that's what memes are, right? They're just a meme is just a constant shared inside joke, you know, and people love it. We had that. I think the first one was Hobby. Remember the turned in first post?
Oh, fucking hell!
First.
Yeah.
Oh god, I remember all the all the little shit you guys would pull on just like fucking with us. It's like whenever we would say this site would suck, it would be changed to pudding time.
I don't even remember that one, but I like it. I'll go back to that.
Someone did that. It was, let's see, it was pudding time. I think actually someone screwed around, and if someone said first, it actually replaced it with Hobby.
That was a filter we had, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. PHP for the win, yo.
We're being reminded in the chat that Dop is his own meme.
Fuck that guy. He's a Bama fan. What does he know?
Well, and there are definitely things that those of us who've been around forever have seen the evolution of, and now that the site is going to be changing into something new, we might be seeing, you know, go away or change like awards. You know, it used to be kind of a running gag to try to get people to X out your award, to, you know, oh, I got Gus to give me a red X on his award, or I got all of the awards. And that isn't something that people even talk about now. You know, well, when it was this huge deal back in the day. So
yeah, everything
change.
Well, it also probably doesn't help that like development on the site is, you know, we're in the process right now of doing a refresh, but it's like we've gone through a couple iterations of that, and it's like, I mean, quite frankly, it's like a lot of the awards are from people that are, you know, we need newer cast members on there and things like that. You know what I mean? Generationally, Rooster Teeth's a lot different company than it was, you know, on a staff level. It's different than it was 5 years ago. Much different.
Well, and just to bring it back to what we were talking about, last time you were on the podcast, you were talking about changes to the site and things that were going on. I'd imagine you're probably not the person to talk to about that anymore.
No, I mean, it's like, and Gus was always the guy who was in charge of it, and even Gus isn't that guy anymore. Now it's Adam Baird is in charge of that. You know, Ben King still works on it, but not very frequently. You know, it's one of those things where you know, we're always in the process of trying to find somebody who can work and develop the site. We're doing a refresh right now, and then we'll see where it goes from there. You know, it was supposed to be coming out the first quarter of this year, and I'll be honest, I don't think we're gonna make it. You know, I think it's gonna get pushed a little bit back in quarter two.
I mean, that's actually, if if it gets pushed back and is good, that's never a bad thing. Like
but that's always a tough thing, though, right? I mean, we've all been on the internet long enough to see that like every initial change is like, people get upset by that. So
yeah.
You know what? Honestly, has been the biggest holdup on the awards thing is the artwork. We've had the artwork done for that probably about 10 times. I'm not kidding. And we even went back and got the guy who did the initial artwork, the icons, back in 2004, and it still didn't look right. It was just crazy. And also the staff grew from 7 people to 65 people over the course of like 3.5 years. So it was just like by the time we got a new set of award icons in, it was time to put a new set in. It was already out of date in a way. We actually have that on the wall. I don't know if you guys ever see it in like RT Life or anything, but I commissioned from Mental Fusion. He started doing portraits of people on the site, and I said, yeah, much along the same way that we've always reached out to the community. Like when I first discovered like Luke's drawings of the RVB characters and then hired him to make the webcomic. I said to Mental Fusion, I said, can you make these portraits? Can we just commission you to make the rest of the staff? And we'll just hang them, like have all the portraits hanging. And then that front hallway in the current office. Well, damn. By the time he would deliver, and he didn't work slowly or anything, but by the time he delivered the full staff of like 10 to 12 people, then we had 20. Then by the time we got the 20 done, we had 30. And it was like, at some point, it became like this internal political nightmare of, I'm going to hang these photos, and it's going to be like, oh, well, you didn't think I was good enough to make a photo for. So now we finally had to do a cutoff and say, once you've been here a year, we make a photo and we put it up on the wall for you. One of the portraits and put it up. That's the only way that we can do that.
Yeah. Well, and that goes into a question in the chat from Frisco Flame, who wants to say, you've added so many people to your roster, but then there are some people who have left to go on to different and awesome things like Nathan. Is there anybody there whose portraits on the wall that, you particularly miss?
We have a Nathan. We don't have anybody on the wall. I mean, I get the metaphor for what you're saying. We actually don't have anybody on the wall. That was a big decision. Like, we actually haven't lost. I came from my last career. I worked at call centers where you had 300% turnover in a year. I mean, the whole staff turned over every 4 months, it seemed like. And so at Rooster Teeth, we've probably not had. I could easily name everybody who was there and is no longer there. It's like 5 or 6 people. Nathan was with us for the longest amount of time. He was there, back in the Buda office. So he was there about 6 years before he left. But he had a film at Sundance this year. He was in the dramatic competition with the name's escaping me right now. I want to say Kumiko, the treasure hunter. It's a Japanese lady's name, and for some reason it's escaping me right now. But it's a picture he worked on for a really long time, and so he's off going doing that. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Good for him. Actually, my wife wanted to mention she actually met Nathan once. It was the only time that she's ever been to any of the office iterations. But she wanted to mention that. Gus the cat. Gus the cat. Joe the cat is awesome, and
Joe the cat's right over here somewhere. Let me see if I can find him.
She wants you to pet him real quick for her.
No, I'll go do that.
Oh, okay.
He's in here. Where's he, Ashley? Is he in there? Oh, he likes to sit in Ashley's lap. This is what he does.
Oh,
I've lost Joe the cat entirely. Just so I can get a meow out of this guy. He looks so happy. I'm picking him up here. Joe the cat. It's so funny. I was with this cat in the backyard today. And I was thinking, he's got like a Twitter account and these Tumblr blogs and everything. It's like, I wonder if this cat has any idea, like, it's just so dumb to this cat. All this stuff must be so stupid. He's not going to meow. And I don't want to squeeze him too hard.
No, that's fine. She is, she's obsessed with Joe the cat. She's Joe the cat's the only Rooster Teeth Twitter account, Rooster Teeth-ish Twitter account that she follows. And she absolutely loves him. She's allergic to cats, so she kind of has to do the whole, hey, I love cats via proxy. So Joe the cat is one of her favorites.
Yeah, that's why Joe the cat essentially had to leave Rooster Teeth because Monty's deathly allergic to cats. So and nobody, I mean Gus and Matt were very happy to see Joe go. They hated Joe the cat. So, but Joe the cat is now happy in retirement. He's a happy outdoor cat.
Joe the cat.
Have you guys ever tried to co-opt some of those fake Twitter accounts the same way you guys would just grab URLs if you guys would mention a webpage?
Well, no, not really. I mean, we've done in the past where we've gone out and asked people, we were doing this thing, can we have it? We're actually well, I don't want to reveal too much here, but we're launching a new channel, and we had to like contact somebody to try to get that channel. But and it turned out the person was a Rooster Teeth fan, so we were trying desperately to contact him. In fact, I hinted at that in my journal that I was trying to get hold of somebody. But I think the only one that's really, really big that we thought about doing it, but we know the person running is the RT Podcast one, because that's not an official Rooster Teeth one. But it's, it's one of those things where it's working well on its own. So, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
There you go.
Yeah, I'd say so. So I have one question from Vertigo X, actually posted in our group, old friend of ours. You survived a decade with a dedicated staff creating great new content. How are you personally taking time for yourself as Burnie the Relaxer, not Burnie the Taskmaster?
Oh, God. Well, it's been crazy. I mean, on a personal level, obviously my life has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. It's Miles is helping a lot with Red versus Blue, going into now season 12, and we've been milestoning all the way through season 13 of RVB. That's been a big help, doing that stuff. And then it's the job's really different. I turned the CEO reins over to Matt about a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer now. Yeah, it's coming up in almost 2 years. And that I thought was going to be an instantaneous pressure valve release of just okay, now I can just go back to doing creative stuff. Didn't quite work that way, but I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun to help other people deliver creative content too, and be able to take some time and nurture some ideas. Because before it was I would work on Red versus Blue, and then as soon as the last episode went out the door, we started cranking on the DVD. As soon as the DVD was shipped off, I immediately went to work on some new show. If you look back at the history of Rooster Teeth, it's all of our non-RVB shows all came out in the quote-unquote off-season, where it's whether it was Immersion or Strangerhood or Panics or even Griffball, it was I spent all my time doing that, and then immediately went back into production for RVB. So it's kind of nice to be able to stop and really nurture something and develop it. Now we got stuff like Achievement Hunter. We have Ruby. We have just a bunch of different shows and a lot of people making content all the time. So it's great.
And it's amazing. I was looking at my YouTube channel the other day, and I'm sort of scrolling over all the other channels on there, and there's sort of just a section on my Xbox app, and I look over Rooster Teeth, and I see that there's 7 million subscribers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's crazy, because I know your content and I watch your content, but that's a big number.
No, yeah, definitely is. It's it's crazy. We just had one of our videos passed 10 million views on YouTube, and we were late to the YouTube game. It's it really is. But I've always tried to tell people that we want to have our corner of the net, and the .com site is more important, but these, the growth we've had on YouTube has just been explosive in the last couple of years. It's hard to ignore it. And by the way, Nathan's name of his movie is Kumiko, the Treasure Hunter. I'm saying it completely wrong. It's Kumiko. So hopefully you'll be able to see that in theaters pretty soon.
Link dump that shit, Lauren.
Kumiko.
I'm on it.
And we don't want to imply, with referring to something that Nathan made, the words dump and shit in there. I'm sure it's fantastic and awesome.
Well done, Roadblock.
Yeah, if you've never seen any of Nathan works with his brother David, and actually I knew David from college. I knew David a lot better than I knew Nathan, and then Nathan went to A&M, Roadblock, if that tells you. and so look, mortal enemies can become friends after college.
Enough said, right there.
Yeah, and so he came to work for us, and I think just. It's no matter how much you enjoy something, I think if you're working on somebody else's project, it's just you're only can do that for so long, especially if you're a creator yourself. And Nathan is definitely a creator, and he was always producing stuff outside of Rooster Teeth. He would work with us on a DVD in crunch and work 12 hours, and then go home and shoot for 5 or 6 hours on something else. That guy was always making stuff. So. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to being able to see this movie. Hopefully it gets into theaters. And if not, I'm sure there'll be some way we can see it very soon.
I'm sure he'll get it on video on demand on something. It's one of the great I was kind of listening to some of your stuff that you were saying the other night on the show, and issues aside with how big Netflix has gotten, it is a good way to see things that you would normally see. And the fact that Amazon Prime is coming into its own. I know my wife and I are watching Veronica Mars right now. It's not on Netflix. And I'm like, man, I kind of wanted to watch Veronica Mars. Showed up on Amazon Prime. And we're like, oh, sweet. All right, rock on. But there's a lot of different ways to get it out these days. It seems like that's one of the things that the internet has really helped with. If it doesn't make it into
I mean, the issues I have with Netflix are, I mean, they're a great service. I just this political move they pulled the other day is just a freaking nightmare. I think for everybody in the online video industry. You know what I mean? It's just it's a lot of changes going on the internet. Like, I mean, Amazon. If you're an Amazon user like I am, I mean, you've noticed you had to pay sales tax if you weren't paying it before. I mean, these are things that could dramatically change the way the internet is provided. And the services it provides to everyone across the world. So we'll see.
For those who aren't familiar, what's the thing about Netflix you're talking about?
They made a deal with Comcast where they said they were going to pay Comcast for broadband access. Essentially, they were going to pay Comcast in order to assure the quality of their streams, which is a quality of service layer, which basically just means that Comcast is saying, hey, these are our customers in these markets. You can't get to them unless we give you access to them, and you can't ride our network for free and build your business on the back of our network. Well, that's great. But without all the content providers out there actually making and providing content, all these access providers would just have their own homepages. Like, who the hell goes to Comcast.com? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, what does Comcast think they're offering service to? At the same time, I get it, because Comcast is a cable company. A big part of their revenue is video on demand services. They're watching those plummet to the floor because who the hell watches video on demand on their cable box anymore? And, that's a revenue source that's dropping. And on the other side of their profit and loss statement is this huge growing expense of their network that they keep having to expand. And why do they keep having to expand it? Because this company called Netflix is using up, a certain percentage of their bandwidth, or very, significant portion of their bandwidth. So I get it. But at the same time, it's like, it's not good for these big juggernauts to just be trading money with each other and, forcing everybody else out of competition, essentially. Like, who's going to compete with Netflix now? Not many people can reach that deep into their pockets and start paying the Comcasts and the Time Warners of the world.
Yeah, that's another thing that existed last time we spoke on this podcast, net neutrality. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. It's okay. The FTC is in the... Or excuse me, the FCC is in the process of rewriting the regulations so that things that happen like this, that the cable providers and access providers can't do this kind of thing to people who provide services over broadband, which is great because we don't want to see those things go away. And I think that Netflix unfortunately had struck this deal before they knew that was going to happen. So,
now it's time for a question.
in the
Move on to happier topics.
The great Ed Robertson. This is going to be the problem. Ed Robertson has a great quote. He goes, "There's no shame in selling out. The shame is selling out for too little."
It's sort of like that quote in Braveheart when Edward Longshanks is talking how he bribed the Scottish lords, and he's like, "Oh yes, I gave lands and titles and gold and so to this other lord. The other one turned for much less."
Incidentally, if you're interested in the intellectual property of 7 years of Glib Shark, contact us at glibshark@gmail.com. I'm sure we can work something out.
We'll sell out for cheap.
There you go. Put on Netflix.
So Ben Luce, his Twitter handle is at keeping it loose. Says, Burning, part of RT's charm is that it's big enough to do awesome things, but small enough to stay connected with its fans. How do you plan ahead to keep it the way that's worked for over a decade and made you all the successes that you are?
I like sexy. I like the Freudian
Listen,
slip.
There's no Freudian slip there. None.
Well, you know what it is? It is that we genuinely came from this space. Now, I'm very proud of what, that we're great business people and we identify good opportunities. And I think the main thing is that if there's one secret to the Rooster Teeth success over the last few years, and which if you look at us, the main thing is longevity. I mean, it's a very popular content provider. If you talk about like the YouTube channel with 7 million, but we've always stayed adaptive. Like we have core fundamentals we believe in. We have a .com. We never turn that off. But we, at the same time, we didn't get locked into things. Before we were talking about refreshing the website and how that always causes an uproar. Well, that's a balancing act you have to play because you can just change stuff for the sake of change, and then you have what happened with Dig, where Dig just like rolled out a site in the middle of their huge popularity that was against everything the users wanted. And they went from a site that was being courted by Google. They were going to buy them for $198 million. And 2 years later, they sold for $500,000 to some news agency and made Dig what it is today. The other side of that is, and I won't name any sites, but I'm sure we all know these kind of sites where you never change. And then what happens is it gets stale. You know what I mean? It's like, so you have to walk that fine line. You have to stay adaptive and say, like, when you look at things and, we've been doing this for 10 years now. So when we see a Facebook, we're like, well, okay, we could turn off our website and, put up a Facebook page because we've seen other people do that. Because we'll embrace Facebook because that's where everybody is. But, if we'd have done that when we first started, instead of seeing how many likes we could get, we would have spent all of our time trying to build up our MySpace friends, These things, they don't seem like they go away, but they're going to go away eventually. Even Twitter, it's hard to believe that this thing that everybody uses is eventually going to go away, but it probably will. So I think the main thing is we stay adaptive. And the other part of it, I think, is that we don't make any content that we wouldn't watch. Like we have people who are passionate about what they do, and they make shows that they themselves would want to see. And I think a lot of other people in the online video space, as it became big and hot, there were a lot of people who identified online video or identified gaming as places where they could make a lot of money. And so they raised a bunch of investment money and they made these sites, and they weren't really genuinely from the space. And man, I got to tell you, as gamers, and you guys, I don't know if you still classify yourself as gamers, but at least you were at some point in your life, gamers can sniff out something that's not genuine faster than any other demographic. They can, in fact, they go overboard sometimes, like the whole girl gamer thing sometimes it's a little brutal.
A 503 alternate ending for Mass Effect 3. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, and people can sniff it out, when it's not genuine. And so I think that's been a big part of our success. And we haven't stopped being gamers this whole time. In fact, I would argue we're doing more gaming content than ever at Rooster Teeth. Oh yeah, all the Let's Plays and Achievement Hunter and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it's that actually goes into another question. I'll ask it and then I'll figure out who asked it. They were wondering when the next Game Time with Burnie is going to be.
Ooh.
Silence.
Sorry, guys. I was being quiet because I was placing a dinner order. Ashley is getting so nice. She's going to get me dinner. She's so nice. So, So here's the deal with Game Time, is that my job as creative director at Rooster Teeth is to encourage people to make new shows and to help people cultivate new shows. And I really like Game Time a lot, but Game Time came from a specific thing where I said, hey, we're spending a lot of time on Reddit. We're spending a lot of people are going to Reddit. We're spending a lot of time interacting with our community on Reddit. And that's not where our community lives, is they live on Rooster Teeth. So we're doing something, we're getting out of control on this stuff. We're spending too much time on Reddit and Twitter. But this conversation was specifically about Reddit. And we were doing AMAs on Reddit. And I was like, guys, why are we doing these AMAs on Reddit? Why aren't we doing them on our site? And I said, why don't we just make an AMA show? Where we can interview somebody, because we have so many staff members now, and people want to obviously have questions they want to ask them. So why don't we do that on our site? And then everybody was kind of like, because a lot of times our guys are like, well, we don't want to just make a show about us. You know what I mean? We'd rather just make a show that we like that's funny. And so it kind of went away for a little bit, and then I started doing Game Time, and that really took off. And then all of a sudden, the sponsor content, we started making it. We made the AMA show for the sponsor content. I think Barbara did the first one. And then Patrick at work made Quick Draw. And that's a show where he's also another sponsor show where he does a drawing and he talks to one of the staff members while he does a drawing every week. And I was like, well, damn, now we went from no shows about us to 3 shows about us. That's too much. So right now we're in the process of trying to figure out where that is. I think the Quick Draw is probably going to be the one that wins out. As much as I personally love making Game Time, Quick Draw is different. It's there's no gameplay in it, and anything that's not gameplay in our channels I kind of like. That's that makes it a little bit unique, and it gives us a little bit more variety. And people don't know Patrick that well, and Patrick's a really talented guy, and he does a lot for us. And so if somebody's got the gumption and wants to make a show, I'm all on board with that. So we're in the process right now of deciding whether or not to continue Game Time, to stick with Quick Draw, or to kind of mix it up a little bit. So we'll see.
Well,
that's a dangerous thing to say. I should add, because it makes it seem as though one show is being replaced by another, and it's always a dangerous thing to say because then people get mad at the show that they think is replacing a show that they like.
Man,
how
fuck that
dare
show.
you kill off my other show?
That was at Hidden Monk 430. Thank you, Tim, for that awesome question.
And it can be argued as much as the podcast, the Rooster Teeth podcast, is not an interview show. It's so much of it is you guys telling stories about shit that happened during the day or things that are going on in your lives. It almost is just kind of a running podcast about your lives in a way. So, you know, the more the more serious interview shows are you know, kind of ancillary to that.
Yeah, and you know what happens too is you guys have probably witnessed this as well, is that as the audience kind of grows exponentially, the short-term memory or the long-term memory just kind of falls off. Like, you know, for the community, it's like sometimes we'll talk about things like, I don't know what that is. It's like, when were you guys in Buda? Or, you know, who were the original 5 guys? You know what I mean? Or something like that. Like, that's not those things you just kind of – so it's kind of like a way to preserve that stuff. Like, we have a goofy history page on the site. And we actually have to change that now to actually be informational because, you know, people don't know the history of Rooster Teeth. Some people who discovered it. I ran into a guy at the airport. He walked up to me to say hello. And he said, "Are you the guy that sits on the right on the Rooster Teeth podcast?" And I said, "Yes, that is me. That is me. I'm the guy who sits on the right." And he said, "I just started watching that last week. I've seen 2 episodes of it. And it's really funny." I said, that might be the quickest I've ever met anybody who discovered our content, and then that the shortest amount of time between that point and me meeting them. It's like the guy was literally less than 2 weeks into our content. I was like, "You're going to have a lot of catch up to do, buddy." So it's just the way it is now. You know, more and more people are watching stuff online.
Well, as long as we talk about your content, I saw a question in the chat asked a few times by Izzy regarding whether you guys consider doing any longer format shows.
You know, it's always a question. The short answer to that is yes, and that's a big thing that I'm working on right now. I think I've hinted at it, but we're working on right now on working on our first. I hate to say first feature film because first of all, it's not film. It's going to be all digital. It's going to be on our Reds and our Epic, but also it's, you know, we've always approached all of our narrative shows as though we're making a movie a year, and it's the model we call a chaptered feature. Like RVB is supposed to be, you know, it is a very serial story, but you know, we write it like a movie, shoot it like a movie, and distribute it like a movie. And then we have the same basic approach with Ruby as well. But yeah, we're working on. But every time I say that, people go, "Yeah, okay, but when are you going to make a movie?" And it's like, okay, I get what you're saying. So we're in the process of doing that right now. We're probably going to run a Kickstarter in the next couple of months here. We're gearing up for that, and we're going to have some really cool rewards and benefits associated with that cross everything we do at Rooster Teeth. And we're going to try to make a really cool, big, badass movie.
Okay, so I've got to ask.
Shut up and take my money.
Before you take my money, you've got merchandise. You're selling DVDs. You've got all these appearances. You've got all these shows. Why Kickstarter?
Well, first of all, Kickstarter it's a couple different things. The main thing is that at Rooster Teeth we have never told the audience how they have to support us. We basically just make available every possible way that a customer or a client or an audience member would want to support our shows, and we make to them. I mean, if you go all the way back, Obo, to the very first season of Red vs. Blue in April of 2003, we put up RBB, and it got super popular. And back in those days, there was no YouTube. There was no hosting service where you could just put your video up and they would host it for you for all these people. There wasn't even in-browser video streaming. And the other thing was, and this was a misconception a lot of people had, was that if you got a lot of views, that the ad truck just showed up at your front door. That just doesn't exist. It still doesn't exist to this day. The YouTube Partner Program is probably the closest you can get to that. But it comes with, you know, some heavy penalties, basically. So when Red vs. Blue went from 3,000 people watching the first episode to 1 million people watching the 4th episode, we were getting bandwidth bills that were in the neighborhood of $10,000 to $15,000 for a month. So we had to jump on it right away. And we learned it at that time. This is advice it's not advice that really anybody worries about anymore. But like in the days of Homestar Runner, there was the idea that like you can't charge for this content, or you shouldn't be making money from this back in those days. And I just had the opinion that if people want to watch this show, we have an obligation to make it available to them. You know, we have to find a way to keep it going because people want to watch this. And we were at the start of something really amazing, you know, with the whole online video industry. So we started our sponsorship model. Our sponsorship model actually looked in those days a lot like what Kickstarter is today because there was different levels and there were different tiers. And we're going to tie our sponsor model now into like Kickstarter. So it's just another way for people to get in. And a big part of it really is, you know, the Rooster Teeth store is great and it does really well, but it's not tied into the Amazon pay system, which is really awesome. And so there's a lot of people out there who haven't yet had the opportunity or haven't yet the barrier to support Rooster Teeth on making something. It's still just a little too much for them. So we're going to do that. There's also huge marketing potential for Kickstarter. If you have a Kickstarter and you do well, you know, that gets more people aware of what you're doing. And I think that's the only thing that Rooster Teeth can do at this point to grow even bigger is just make more people aware of the awesome content that we're making. Because once people find out about us, you know, they get sucked in and, you know, we have awesome community members and RTX and everything else. So that's the idea behind our Kickstarter. The main thing is that we're approaching it the way Freddie Wong does, which is that we're going to make this thing. We would like for you to help us make it incredible. You know, that's what we're doing with Kickstarter.
Well, and I like that you tied it into the original idea behind the sponsorship model because, I mean, you're right. That really is the original way of, you know, you're going to get this content, but hey, if you're willing to throw us some money, you'll get extras, you'll get online extras. And, you know, when you think about it, that was the original model for Kickstarter was throw us a little bit of money. And I haven't even thought of it that way. Now, how soon do you think this will happen? So how soon can we get you our money?
So next few months is when we're looking at it. We're in the scripting phase, like we're polishing the script right now. I've got props on my desk for the thing we're working on. I got to be careful because I might slip up here. You know, and so we're working on it, and it's a story that I think will be very appealing to Rooster Teeth fans in general. I think they're going to like it a lot.
Is it day 5?
Nice.
No, it is not
Shark
day
exclusive.
It is not day 5, but we are in the middle of producing day 5. So we're in pre-production for going into shooting. That's going to come after Immersion. That is a project, man. That is a project that went through a couple different writers. Like I wrote it, passed it off to Joel and Matt. Matt and Joel worked on it, and then they were gonna produce it. They got involved with another project. Then they passed off to another set of writers. So now it's back to Matt. Matt's got it, and day 5 is on the schedule for later this spring.
Awesome. That actually was a question that a couple of people on our Twitter were asking about. So thank you for clarifying that because wow, nice. We're getting every penny from this guy. It's awesome. He's so worth it.
If anyone would like to back the sponsorship truck up that Burnie was talking about to our doorstep and get some of this great content. Wait, does that exist? I want that to exist so bad.
And one of the great things.
How do you guys distribute Glib Shark now? Do you guys take this and put it on YouTube or anything like that?
Not yet. Well, we do like interviews and that we'll put on YouTube, but for the most part, we're on Ustream. The past episodes are on Ustream and also on our RSS feed. Still hosted by TalkShoe.
And we are now on iTunes.
Oh, that's right.
We've
been on
joined the
iTunes.
Yeah, mainly we've been using. We do want to expand the way our YouTube channel works. Right now, we've got a couple of shorts and a couple of interviews that we need to move over from the Jenga Jam page to the Glib Shark page because they are separate pages. Right now, I think we've got. I think the only things on our YouTube channel right now are the bench short that we showed at RTX last year, and then the super secret Ruby animation that we also showed at RTX last year.
All right.
Yeah, because Ruby was scheduled at the same time as our panel, so we're like, well, everyone who was showing up was like, "Thank you, everyone, for coming. We really appreciate you being here." And I think somebody yelled, "They were out of space at Ruby."
You were the official Ruby overflow room.
We're good counter programming, I think.
You know, we're going through RTX right now, and you know, a big thing we're probably gonna do this year that'll be a big change is that we're moving a lot of the signing areas. We're going to be trying to limit those. Like those guys will not be in their booths like all day long. So we're going to increase the number of panels. Barb's working on it right now and she'll get it all worked out. But we're going to have even more like Rooster Teeth panels. But hopefully what that'll do is that'll make it the counter programming stuff won't come back to haunt us. The weird thing is that we always get programmed against. At PAX, our panels always get programs against Major Nelson. Like every time they do that to us, and it's like I would like to go to Major Nelson's panel at some point.
This last PAX was the first PAX I missed an RT panel, and I was bummed about it. But it was actually a friend of ours, Corey Jericho, actually took me up to the League of Legends area, and I watched live League of Legends for the first time, and it was amazing. And we're just sitting there. I'm like. I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to watch people play video games. I'd rather, if I'm in a position to, I'd rather play said video game. And so I'm like, watching League of Legends live, this is going to kind of suck. And I went up there and I was blown away. It was absolutely awesome. But I'm not missing your panel at PAX East. On a side note, I've also never been to a Major Nelson panel. Haha.
Well, it's the League of Legends or Rooster Teeth, apparently. But this will be an interesting milestone this coming PAX East, because this will be the very first PAX panel where none of Generation 1 will be there.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
What?
The most senior person on the panel is going to be Monty.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of the Generation 2, depending if you call them Generation 2 or Generation 3.
I call them the new class, like Saved by the Bell.
Well, that's the
That's a
problem,
good way to
Jack,
look
is
at
that the new class, we're at the fourth new class here. Like we had
I call them fresh meat.
we had the new class that was like Jack and Miles and
Brandon.
Brandon and those guys. And then you've had Generation 3. And I think like the guys like JJ and Kyle and all of those new kids, they're like 4 or 5 down the road, I think.
Yeah, it's it's interesting. It's like we consider it like the Center Live model, where it's just bringing newer people and everything like that. And one of the early decisions I think we made that was smart was a lot of YouTube and a lot of online channels they just name it after a person, and so it's like people get tired of a person eventually. They get beat over the head with that one person again and again. I mean, it's like even like Fred, who was the #1 on YouTube forever. It's just like eventually just like people don't even know that that Fred was #1 channel on YouTube for like 3 years in a row.
That guy has been showed up on so much stuff. I actually saw him in short order because my wife and I were rewatching Chuck. He was on an episode of Chuck playing a gamer, and then like the next day, I saw him. He was on like Hey Ash, What You Playing, one of their new shows. And he was like on the Donkey Kong Barrel Show, and it was awesome because he really didn't do anything other than just kind of snicker and say like, "Oh my god, this is so awesome!" And quite frankly, if I was on an episode of Hey Ash, What You Playing, I'd probably be pretty excited too. Have you ever had any interactions with those guys?
With what guys? Sorry.
Hey Ash, What You Playing?
No. I mean, I played Borderlands 2, and the Hey Ash, What You Playing team is the writing team for
right. Yeah.
Yeah, Borderlands 2, but no, not any direct interaction with them. I mean, I'm a fan of their stuff. It's really funny. Although I have to say, Tiny Tina, I did not have the affection for her that everybody else did for that character.
I don't know anyone who had any affection for her until the DLC. Like everyone loved the DLC, but I never heard a positive review of her like during the main game. I don't think.
Well, okay. Well, I remember. I remember the character as being really, really popular. Although it's one of those things where it's like I'm gonna be really careful because it's like we've always been careful not to do criticism. Like we don't like. The main thing is I don't want to tell anybody not to like something. You know what I mean? Because people like what they like, and that's great. They're happy to like it.
You know,
And
some of us are excited about Guardians of the Galaxy, and
That's
other people are
exactly what I
not.
was gonna bring up. And occasionally we slip up and give a negative opinion of something that looks totally retarded, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Listen, I think you're absolutely right. You can like what you like, and if you guys watched the trailer for Guardians and weren't into it, I think what was funny was watching the nerd rage afterwards about Ant-Man he's an Avenger. He's not in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Get your comic book stuff right.
How did the Ant-Man discussion get in there? Did Jack say that Ant-Man was part of the Guardians of the Galaxy?
I have no idea that where
You guys were talking about like B-level or C-level characters ending up in movies and Ant-Man being one of them, and then I think it just got messed up. And honestly, yeah, unless if you're just watching those movies, you're not going to know, hey, Iron Man was considered a B-level, C-level character.
That's actually what I was going to say. Like Iron Man and Thor, and to a certain, probably less so Captain America, they were not first-tier Marvel characters. They were the first-tier Marvel characters were like Spider-Man and the X-Men.
Captain America, I think I'd be hard pressed. Hulk, from Marvel, and listen. You nailed it to me though with Thor. If they could take Thor, and make a Thor movie and make it good, and they did. I mean, they nailed it. Both Thor and Thor 2 were great movies. If they can make Thor into a watchable character, they could do this. I mean, they could definitely pull it off. But that trailer was, I mean, we'll see. And people are like, I hope it's really good because I want to see Bernie and Gus's reaction. If it's really good, I'll just go, oh, hey, that was really, really good. I mean, it won't be like, I'm not going to rethink my life.
Yeah, you're not going to be like, oh, God, I'm so wrong. And everyone's going to be like, you suck, Burns.
Yeah.
Some of us are already like that because, Boomer Sooner, whatever.
And like it or hate it, I think it definitely provides something different than a lot of your Marvel films. It sets a different tone. It's a different set, and I think I think it may find its audience. That said, like you said, you like what you like and you hate what you hate.
This is going to be Chris Pratt's year.
Year of the Pratt.
Oh yeah.
He may be at the helm of or at the head of two of the biggest movies so far. I mean, definitely the Lego Movie. Oh my God.
Which I kind of hate because it means no more Andy and Parks and Rec, potentially.
No, listen, I haven't watched it in forever. I didn't even know The Office went up there. That surprised me. But I was going to say about the Lego Movie is I can tell you right there, that's a movie I did not expect to like because I like the Traveler's Tales version of the Legos, the CG Lego stuff. I think that the sensibility of the Lego games and all that, I think that's amazing. And then when they were doing the stop motion Lego stuff, I thought this is going to be garbage. And then I went and saw it. It was amazing. So, sometimes, that's what trailers are all about. I'm one of the few people who thinks, people are going ape shit about Ben Affleck. It's like, okay, I remember when Michael Keaton was cast as Batman. I remember when Heath Ledger was cast as Joker. It's going to be okay. It's going to, the guy is an Oscar award winner twice. I think he can pull off Batman. But we'll see. I mean, we got to wait till the movie comes out, and then we'll see.
I think the biggest thing that's going against World's Finest, Man of Steel 2, whatever you want to call it, is the fact that Zack Snyder is still at the helm. And that, just personally, I mean, I really wanted to like Man of Steel. There was actually, talking about trailers, I think it was the first Man of Steel trailer where it's like, you kind of get the impression, wait, Clark Kent is agoraphobic? That's an interesting take. And it was just a really pretty trailer. And it was all like, the musical was all inspirational. It looked cool. And then in the theater, I'm like, God, I'm so bored. I mean,
I just don't want to see the Superman origin story anymore. I've seen that 1,000 times. And every director...
No, you have to watch Jonathan Kent die pointlessly some more times.
I mean, it's like, every director just thinks they're going to tell the origin story different in this amazing way. It's like, it's the same story, guys. We know it. We know it. We don't need to know about the Krypton blowing up and all that. We got it.
What we're going to get is Wonder Woman shoehorned into the background this time. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, but that's where I think Guardians of the Galaxy and Jenga, I'm with you. It's like, if they make it, it's good, okay. But I worry that, like, the way that Hollywood reacts to stuff, if a comic book movie bombs, then the comic book movie era might be over. Yeah. And before we get to stuff like Wonder Woman. And a good Green Lantern movie, and stuff like that. So
and a Justice League movie.
Yeah, right.
It would be cool to see all that stuff, but we have to keep in mind we've been pretty lucky. Like the comic book era of movies really started with Blade, if you think about it. So it's kind of been like 15, almost 20 years. If you
That's a bold
go back to
statement
Blade.
right there.
I would go back to Tank Girl. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I remember the
Yeah.
90s when they were making comic book movies out of the most obscure, unwatchable comics, you know? And now it's like we're getting real comic book movies.
Right. I think X-Men was probably where I think it's for the turn a little bit of, okay, now these can make money. Blade was a happy accident. I mean, hardly they fleshed out the character more in the movies almost than they did in the comics. But like with the X-Men, you got something, and I think it led to all the other stuff. Remember, Spider-Man was in development hell for like 10 years before they finally made it.
And that was the thing with both Spider-Man and X-Men. It's like the first two movies were okay enough to make sequels. And then for both of them, the sequels were amazing. Like, up until you got The Dark Knight and Avengers, I mean, they were probably in my opinion, the best comic book movies. I mean, they even stacked up well against the new Thor and Captain America movies. Iron Man kind of blew them out of the water, and then Avengers blew everyone out of the water. I mean, I keep saying that Avengers was like the most audacious project. It's like, hey, here's a movie. It's a big summer movie. Oh, by the way, you've had to see at least 2 or 3 other movies in order to see this. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Imagine if Marvel got back X-Men and they got back Spider-Man.
I heard somewhere on like it was in like the Reddit movies or on Fark or somewhere that like whoever owns the rights for X-Men was like really sick of the Marvel Cinematic Universe making all the money, and there were actually talks going on about including some sort of inclusion. And I mean,
the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Because they had the rights to that too.
And the thing is, it's like you don't even have to do anything overt. All you would have needed is maybe seeing like a Chitauri like bound up in a web, and then another Chitauri helmet with like a giant like X claws slash. I mean, you don't have to. You just have to put in enough in there to know that to know that they're out there. Yeah. And I think even that would be a step in the right direction. It's just unfortunate that these storylines, like Ultron and Thanos and all that stuff, isn't going to have the X-Men or Spider-Man. Mostly.
Yeah.
They're not going to have the X-Men, but what they're going to have is what's the term they're using for mutants now, because they can't use mutants, and that's how they're getting Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. God, I just lost it.
I didn't know, because that's right. Like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are like the only crossover between the two properties, right?
Yeah, mainly Quicksilver. I don't think Scarlet Witch did much in the X-Men. But Quicksilver, she was in the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, was she?
Yeah, she hasn't shown up. Neither of them have shown up, I don't think, in any of the movies yet, but Quicksilver's showing up in the next X-Men movie, and then Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are showing up in the next Avengers, but they're calling them Inhumans. That's what they're calling them. And Marvel is just starting a whole new comic line called Inhumans, but they're just renaming mutants just because they can't use the term mutant. So you're going to get 2 different movies with 2 different Quicksilvers from 2 different studios, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Scarlet Witch is a great character, though. You have to, if you're going to include Vision in the new Avengers movie, which you kind of have to if you have Ultron, then you got to have Scarlet Witch, too. It's going to be really cool.
Well, and I love that they're getting some really high-profile actors. That, Robert Redford is just showing up to do a comic book movie, and they're doing it for at least what sounds in an interview like the right reasons, because it sounds like fun, and it's a movie my kids are going to be excited to see me in,
Yeah, Glenn Close is going to be Nova Prime in Guardians of the Galaxy. You saw, what's his fucking name? John C. Reilly in the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer. And it's just the level of talent they're getting for these movies is encouraging, because it means that these movies are more than likely going to continue to be good, and we're going to continue to get them. And Bernie, I agree completely. It's really only going to take one bomb of one of these big tentpole Marvel movies to kind of, the brakes are going to get put on, and it's going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't
Devil
think,
Dinosaur.
Yeah, I don't think it'll mean the death of everything, but I think,
The Watchers, the movie.
Hell, I hate all of you.
That'll be what does it.
No, but listen. I mean, everyone's. It's really easy to point a track record and say assume that Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be good, because that's exactly what Hollywood does. They assume that the latest thing is the trend. But Guardians of the Galaxy is an obscure comic. It's a lot more like Ghost Rider than it is like Avengers. You know what I mean? It could be a Ghost Rider, and nobody wants to see another Ghost Rider. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. They'll make it, and it could be awesome.
I hope so. I think so, but I can completely understand, like when you guys were talking about the podcast about it looking ridiculous. You know, here's a raccoon with an Uzi and a tree.
Right. On the most recent podcast we recorded on Monday, I finally realized what the problem I have with it. It looks like somebody fucked up the Star Fox movie.
Oh yeah.
And they got it all wrong. Like even the green lady, it's like, you know, they just like, oh, we can't have a frog on there. Let's make her a sexy green lady.
Yeah.
And purr.
I'm going to get all 2013 on us, but my favorite thing from Star Fox recently that someone made was it was the four corners of, you know, the pilots, and like Falco is saying, Fox, we need to do this, and Skippy's like, Fox, what's doing? And Peppy's like, Fox, what's going on? And the last one is Fox going, Whatcha cha 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 cha, Whatcha cha cha. Oh my god, that's about the funniest that thing is going to be, and now it's done.
Now it's done.
Now it's done.
You know, I gotta say though, we got the numbers for YouTube for 2013, and Gangnam Style was still in the top 10 for, you know, after it had played out for a year. 2013, it was still in the top 10. So it's just crazy. The stuff sticks around for a while. It sticks around longer than you think.
Well, and it permeates, you know, areas of the internet that hadn't reached those people before. You know, my dad is pretty internet savvy and has always been technologically savvy, and every once in a while I get a question from him about shit like on Gundam Style, and you know, it's been 12 months, Dad, how could you not have seen this video? All right, go to YouTube. And so it's amazing that, you know, all of a sudden people who are just not in those circles all the time, we're not going to YouTube, we're not going to a gaming site, someone finally shows it to them a year and a half later. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. It was weird because there was a point on the internet where we were making content, and I said, you know, my advice to people was just make stuff, because if you make something good, it can't go unseen, because it'll go around. That's the power of the internet. But now, man, there's so much stuff out there, you can easily miss, you know, unless you're watching stuff on the internet 24/7, you're going to miss something. It's crazy.
Well, and you guys have been branching out into doing Vines, and
Oh my god.
let's talk a little bit about Vines before you go.
No, let's not talk about Vines and how it makes me laugh out loud at work like a fucking idiot.
Vines are fun, man. Vines are really fun. But they're like binge watch. That's why we make 6 at a time if we can, because it's just like, if you make one a day, it just doesn't feel like it has the same impact to me, you know? As opposed to like somebody finding 6 of ours all at once. They're fun, though.
My favorite one is still Ninja School. Because it's just it's a dumb camera trick, and it's like, but it's so awesome, it's so simple, and I think that's the best thing about the Vines, is that how simply funny they are. I mean, that's really, I don't know that there's a stinker among them. They're just
distilled. You can't mess around with it. You just like, here's the joke. And there was one with the eye poking game where it was like, somebody on the comment thread pointed out this, like, how do you have 3 jokes in 6 seconds? I was like, I don't know. It's like, you just got to move fast. You got to move really fast.
And hey, if you can rewatch it 12 times in a minute, then who cares how fast it goes? You just hit replay.
It is true. It is true. Like, if you don't have to be like, feel like, is it clear? It doesn't matter, because I'll watch it again 5 more times because it's gonna loop. Yeah, that's part of the format. I love unique formats on the internet. Like, to me, the animated GIF is the format of the internet. Animated GIF.
You can say GIF on this show. It's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's GIF.
Yeah, that's a unique thing you don't see anywhere else. It only exists on the internet. You know, a short moving image like that. It's just like there's nothing else like it.
I made a journal for this show, and I was rather excited for it. And so all I had to do was type Frozen excited, and it filled it out for GIF. And I'm just like, oh, this is easy mode. Awesome.
I love autocomplete. It's like, it's a constant groupthink when you're typing something in. It's like, oh, look, a bunch of other people don't know what I know either. So
hey, I did want to get to this one question that was posted in the group. It's a toughie, so be ready. Recently, a user announced that he had to stop development of a game. I won't talk about the details of the game because pending legal action, blah, blah, blah. Basically, his question is, where does Rooster Teeth draw the line between project like AH Battle Brawlers or 8-Bit Rooster Teeth, ignoring the interactive element? How is it different from the animated adventures or another RT-based community animation?
Yeah, that's a tough nut, right? Too. So I think I can talk around the edges of that. Are you talking about the Ruby, the guy who was making a Ruby fan game?
This is specifically the adventures of X-Ray and Vav, so I think that might be it.
Oh, that one. It just all that matters is if we're planning to do something with it, and that's not, IP and copyright are weird things, and it's like, look, Rooster Teeth came from an atmosphere where we made something that somebody with IP rights could have just absolutely hammered and crushed. And I think that's the way a lot of people expected that story to go. So we're absolutely sensitive to it. Likewise, if Microsoft in those early days had said to me, or at any point had said to me, hey, we're going to be making something like this, so don't do this. Then I when you go in and you work with somebody else's IP, you got to go in with your eyes open. And I think most people do that when they see it. Like, there was a big Kickstarter by the other half of Freddie W, where he was making a Minecraft movie. And Mojang was like, no, don't do that. Don't make a Minecraft movie. If you want to make like Let's Plays and stuff, that's the game, but we're going to make a Minecraft movie, so don't do it. So they shut it down like in 2 days. And, I saw Notch catching a lot of grief about that. It's like, it's just because Notch made something that's popular doesn't mean that like somebody can go out and raise $500,000, do it if Notch doesn't want that to happen. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So in the case of like there's a Ruby game that's out there, and Ruby's obviously a property that is Rooster Teeth is at the point now where when we have something that's popular and it looks like a franchise. I mean, we have figures by Todd McFarlane. It's like we have people who are interested in making a Ruby game, and so that's something that we would really like to do. I'm not making any kind of announcement or saying we have a Ruby game, but that's something that I think if it happened wouldn't be that surprising to anybody. So it's always one of those things, but I think, I'll stand by our track record where we've seen people doing stuff that we really like, and we've hired people from the community. It's changed in the most recent years, but like the second generation, all of our hires came from the community. I mean, like we hired Luke, Monty in a weird way. He's not really a community, but like Jordan, lot of people. Nico, absolutely. Nico was like one of the first people we started working with, and and we're still working with Nico to this day for Red versus Blue. So yeah, I think we got a long history of it, but sometimes just logistically, either what they're doing is not like what we're doing, or we have something else already in the works and it's just bad timing. Sometimes that just happens, and you got to roll with it. And up until now, everyone's been okay with it. But I can say there's a guy who's making something that seems, well, let's say this: we were working with somebody new from the community who does really cool stuff. That's fan-based stuff, and he's going to come work on RVB, and we'll just see where it goes from there. He starts in like a month, I think.
Awesome. Silver KM03, thank you so much for the question.
Hey, Jack, do you remember when you tried to call RT Philly RTX?
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
What happened there?
Oh, geez. Someone reached out to me and said, well, maybe we'll hold on to that name, and I think it worked out best for all involved.
Yeah. So that's when we had the idea that we were going to do something, and it was like the RTX name was perfect for, Rooster Teeth Texas, Rooster Teeth Expo, everything all mixed up. So listen, I mean, it was, you did not raise a stink about that or anything like that.
I'm sorry. Did I bring that up?
No, I mean,
my
it's good.
bad.
I'm very appreciative of the fact that we said that to you, and you guys were like, oh, well, okay, we'll call it RT Philly. You know what I mean? And that was really, really nice, because that could have been much more difficult than it was.
Well, and I think some of this is an understandable thing, because I know a lot of the time, a lot of the questions you guys get a lot of the time is, hey, how do I get a job with you guys? And the answers you've always given is just go and do stuff, go do things, go market yourself, go make the thing that you want to make. And then, this is how we found people in the community. So I'm sure a lot of these people are just really creative people going, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for that. So it happens.
Mm-hmm. No, it does. And sometimes it works out really well. I mean, Luke worked with us for 5 years, and it started because he was drawing pictures of our characters as interpreted by lines from the show. That was great, and it was a perfect fit, and it turned into something that was totally different than that. You know what I mean? And so, just sometimes it's serendipity, and sometimes it works out. And more often, I think for Rishi, more often than not, it does work out. But sometimes it just doesn't, and it sucks, and I recognize that. But sometimes it just doesn't work out, and that's the way it ends up sometimes. So,
our next question is why Burnie Burns is a monster.
Why am I a monster? How long you have? I'm actually laying on the couch right now, so I can really open up to you about all the ways that I'm a monster. Starts with my parents.
Let's talk about childhood.
Should we all take a wild guess about who asked that question?
No one asked that question.
Actually, Dolph asked the exact opposite of that, and he wanted to thank you for 10 years of awesome content.
Well, hey, listen, I'm a great person.
I love it.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
We said before, started from a genuine space, and that's absolutely the same thing today. It's still mainly, with a few exceptions, sad exceptions, it's mainly the same group of people working there with more people being added on. And I don't think there's a day goes by that we're not exceptionally grateful for the opportunity to make this stuff and the ability to work in the environment that we work in. And it's been great. And I mean that. I mean, everyone is really very appreciative of it. I know other people who work in online video and they're just like, they're not happy. And I'm like, how are you not happy? It's like the greatest thing in the world. And it's just, we have a blast. I mean, I think Gavin's probably one of the best examples of that. Gavin shows Slow-Mo Guys. He doesn't need to do a damn thing at Rooster Teeth. I mean, Slow-Mo Guys is an enormous success. Gavin has more Twitter, Facebook, whatever social media followers than anybody else in the company. But he just comes into work and loves to work there and loves to do stuff. And it's just, I mean, that's probably the best example I can give of how lucky we all are. It's great. Because we all get to work with a dumb British kid with a hairy chest. That's why.
You're living the dream, Burnie. You're living the dream.
Living the dream.
Exactly.
Living the dream. That's the dream of the internet, to meet underage men in other countries.
And on that note...
Oh, man. Burnie, thank you so much for joining us on Glib Shark.
Guys, thank you so much. Jenga, Roblox, Obo, I really appreciate you guys, and I can't wait till the next time I can see you at some fun event very soon, hopefully.
When is
RTX, if not sooner?
RTX is July 4th of this year. If not sooner, I'll be up in some of your necks of the woods, and I don't get up to Philly very often. Sorry, Jenga. But
yeah, that's okay.
I never go to Oklahoma because I want to come back home alive.
No one ever does.
But hey, the next time you're in Seattle, Luke and I will take you out for a drink.
That sounds like a plan.
Hey,
I like it.
Boston, New York, Washington, all close by.
Otherwise, we'll always RTX.
Or we'll all just get together. RTX tickets on sale now.
That's right.
Look at you, Obo. I love it.
Someone's got to pimp shit, right? It's got to be me.
Yeah, for those who don't know, you can follow Burnie at Burnie, Burnie. That's his Twitter, for those who didn't know. A little bit of promotion
more importantly, at Rooster Teeth.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You want to bring them always back to the site for the stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. So next week, we got Luke McKay. So it's a regular Rooster Teeth old school Jenga guest kind of reunion. So I'm pretty excited to talk to Luke again. I don't know how we're able to get this guest. It's not like we have any kind of personal connection whatsoever.
No sexual favors were involved.
None.
But you guys should, if you like the show with Burnie, you should tune in to Luke because he's a really awesome guy and he draws stuff. Well, on behalf of yeah, that's a pretty good note.
That's his tagline. Burnie,
way to go,
stuff.
Jack.
Luke, he draws stuff. There you go.
Yeah. But Burnie stuff, Rooster Teeth comics, and all kinds of great content, and buttonmash.com. So come back next week for Luke McKay. But until then, on behalf of Lauren Urban, Jonathan Cerna, and the entire Glib Shark staff, Bob, take us out.
That's all for this week's episode of Glib Shark, but you can find more swimming around the internet. Go fishing for us on iTunes. We're a 5-star catch. Or follow us on Twitter at GlibShark. You can even drop us a line, glibshark@gmail.com. Until next week, stay sharky, my friends.